Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. A little frustrated with the way that game ended for a number of reasons, which we will soon get into at length and at expletive. 6-5 win for the Boston Bruins in overtime and a very exciting, intense hockey game. The Oilers came back from a 4-1 deficit, which is pretty amazing to tie the game in the third period, and got down again and tied it again and then lost in overtime. Yeah. Bruce, two good things, two bad things, two numbers, and one conundrum. What is your good thing?
Yeah, I'll go with player Warren Fogle in this game. He got promoted to the first line in the absence of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and I thought he had a pretty excellent game all told. 10 shot attempts, 2 goals plus 3. He took the biscuit to the basket and was rewarded for it twice. He went hard to the net once with the puck, and once he went there without the puck, and he intercepted the shot pass from outside and stepped around Jeremy Swayman and tucked it home. And I just liked his effort and his energy throughout this game. He played at even strength today, or 5-on-5, 15 minutes and 45 seconds. And during that time, the Oilers had 40 shot attempts to 8 by Boston. That line was dominant. Shots on net were 22-7 while they were out there, and shot attempts were 40 to 8, 5-1 ratio. You just don't see 83% in that column very often. But he was, I thought, outstanding with both his work ethic and his execution. Had a very strong game.
Yeah. Seemed to me, Bruce, he was so good that he actually should have been out in overtime. That he had earned that. Should have been out there with Ryan McLeod instead of Evander Kane. We'll get into that in a second, but yeah, I'm so steamed by the coach's decision to have Evander Kane on the ice at the end of the game. And Fogle was flying that game. He was solid defensively. He's a much better defensive player than Evander Kane, as is almost every other Oilers winger. And anyway, Fogle did have. I'm encroaching on your bad thing. I know. I don't know. I don't often get super steamed. I was really steamed with the decision to play Kane in overtime. In fact, anyway. Okay, what's my good thing? Okay, my good thing is the comeback, and especially the way the comeback was orchestrated, because it was a very frustrating game on a certain level by the Oilers. They were getting outplayed early on. Yep. But Boston was winning it by playing smarter. They were throwing pucks at the net and they were getting goals. And the Oilers just didn't seem to be interested in making that particular play in the first 2 periods of the game. They didn't seem to be interested in keeping it simple, throwing the puck at the net and seeing what happens. But in the third period, Bruce, all of a sudden, it was interrupted by one Boston goal, but 3 outside shots put on net, put at net, and 3 goals scored by the Oilers. We call them the Californian after the way that the Oilers in the 2010s used to go to California, and the California teams, Anaheim, San Jose, and LA, were masters at this play, especially the San Jose Sharks with Pavelski and Burns, putting it on net and hoping for the best, and they got the best because they knew how to tip the puck in. So the first one was Cody Ceci kept the puck in and just put it at net. And somehow Swayman, who had been good all game, he muffed it. He was sitting there right on the goal line, and Matthias Janmark puts it in. Next, it's a bit more of an offensive zone cycle, and it's Darnell Nurse who puts it at net, and Corey Perry first tips it on net. It's off a face-off, excuse me. Draisaitl wins the face-off. Nurse puts it on net, and Corey Perry first tips it, then gets the rebound and slams home the goal that tied up the game. Then Boston scored, and then it was Matthias Ekholm who put it on net from outside, and Zach Hyman who jammed in the rebound. So it's a great way to score goals. Edmonton is going to have to score a lot of goals this way, and they got it done in the third period. They just really executed the California to perfection.
Well, Edmonton's going to have to score a lot of goals to win hockey games, David, the way they're defending right now.
There was
a lot of wide open spaces. I mean, David Pastrnak, how many clean shots on net did he get in this game? He was officially 5 shots on net, and I can visualize all 5 of them being from the slot, and mostly with nobody around the guy. So,
quite a hockey player, though, eh?
Yeah.
He's an amazingly skilled hockey player.
Well,
20 grade A shots for the Bruins, Bruce. 20 grade A shots for the Bruins, 17 for the Oilers.
That's the third time in the last 5 or 6 games we've had 20 to 17 as the exact same 2 numbers, either for or against, but the number's the same. That's weird because their numbers are so high. Like, that should be an extraordinary game, but these days it's loosey-goosey again. Anyway, David Pastrnak, that goes to my bad thing, which is the defensive play and defensive zone play of Evander Kane, who, with the score tied 4-4 in the third period, and the Oilers under pressure, first of all, he lost a battle on the sidewall of a puck that I thought should have gone out of the zone and didn't. And then after that flurry subsided, the puck came right back up to Kane on the sideboards again, and he had nobody around him. He just had to walk it out of the zone or dump it out. And about 5 feet inside the blue line, he fires it directly sideways right across the blue line to the other side of the ice where, wait for it, David Pastrnak is waiting for it. And Pastrnak walks into the slot, makes a nice move and a great shot, and it's 5-4 Boston, just because you have a player who can't make a 3-foot clearance over his own blue line. And, that's just not acceptable. You got to be better than that. So
what was he doing? Like, he was trying to pass it across to someone breaking up the ice, I guess, is what he was trying to do.
Well, there was nobody
the other guy
there.
wasn't really
he
even
just kind
moving.
of shoveled it over there for no apparent reason. If you're going to shovel it anywhere, shovel it into the neutral zone. So then, anyway, at overtime, after Swayman made 2 fantastic saves off of Draisaitl on the Edmonton power play, at the end of the power play, they put out, because, of course, all the stars were gassed, they put out Kane and McLeod and Nurse for the second shift. And Kane's shift wound up being 1 minute 44 seconds, David. And several things went wrong during that shift, one of them being his inability to clear the zone again. But there was a play where, after some frenetic action in their own zone, Ryan McLeod got the puck in the corner, and he tried to make a soft dump off the wall because he knew Kane was behind everybody, and Nurse was too. And Kane had like a 20-foot lead on anybody for a breakaway, but the pass wasn't on his stick, and he was out of gas, so he just coasted to the bench. And while he was coasting to the bench, the Boston defenseman from about 300 feet behind the play comes all the way down and it's icing. So guess who has to come back out on the ice? Kane and Nurse, the 2 guys who coasted to the bench, when either of them could have at least forced the goalie to play the puck by, even sort of a lactic acid race to the puck. They were so far ahead, they were bound to get to the hash marks first. But I think the lactic acid went straight to their heads because they just didn't think it through, and the goalie was very smart. He just let it be, and of course they went out there, and of course they lost the face-off in the D zone, and they just spent the rest of the game chasing and panicking, and eventually Kane going one-on-one with Charlie McAvoy, who you think Charlie McAvoy might be tired at this point. 30 minutes and 10 seconds he played tonight in a game. Boston went with 5 defensemen from start to finish. And yet it was McAvoy who was keeping his cool while Kane did this flop. in front of him, and he just stepped around him, and then he stepped around Stu Skinner, who went for the poke check and missed, and he tapped it in for the game winner, and a deeply unsatisfying goal to give up, to lose the game. And I just was, you know, stand up, make a play. What are you doing? Just sort of sprawling down on the ice for no reason. It's hockey.
They're exhausted by then,
Yeah,
Bruce, and you know what? He's not a great defensive player.
he is not a great
He is
defensive
not,
player.
and the coach, you know what? It is on Knobloch. Now, it might be too old school, with whatever it was, 6 minutes left when Kane gave away the puck for that goal to bench him the rest of the game. Maybe they don't do that anymore in the NHL. I was surprised to see him off. I was surprised to see him on the ice after that, honestly. I thought it was too big a risk, and they had him out there, the Draisaitl line with about 2 minutes left, and Boston almost scored then. They were putting a lot of pressure in the Oilers zone. So I think, okay, this is the last we'll see of Evander Kane. It's not his night, and he's caused a major goal against you. He's part of a group that almost got scored on right at the end. And why Knobloch picks him as opposed to Fogle or Hyman or
Hyman had been out for the long.
Had Hyman been out on the power play?
Yeah.
Well, Warren Fogel's the obvious choice. He's a solid defensive player. He's fast.
He was having a great game.
He's having a great game. He's earned it. Yeah. Put him out there with Ryan McLeod. They know how to play together. Like Dylan Holloway would be not a terrible choice. He can really skate like crazy. Kane can skate fast in a forward straight line, but he's not agile on defense. And you have to be in 3-on-3. I didn't like the decision at all. As soon as it happened, I thought, oh God, this is a really big risk.
Proved out to be fatal.
And it did. So I put it on the coach. This one, actually, he's the one who has to get the right players on the ice. It's his fundamental job, as Scotty Bowman used to say, get the right players on the ice. And Coach Knobloch failed in that moment. Bruce, my bad thing was the pairing of Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci. One or the other of them was on the ice for 5 of the 6 Bruins goals against. They each made, of the 20 grade A shots, Ceci and Nurse made, each of them, 8 major mistakes on grade A shots this game, 7 at even strength, 1 each shorthanded. So I'll just quickly go over some of the highlights. The first goal, it's kind of an outside shot that the goalie doesn't see, and he doesn't see it because Darnell Nurse is screening him. So that's bad luck in some ways. And there's a Boston player screening Skinner as well. It's bad luck, but that is also bad timing from a defenseman. Either block the shot or get out of the way. Like that's the job, and he didn't do either. So he's culpable on the first goal against. With 7 minutes left in the first, he and Ceci allow a play out from behind the net, which is getting a little too common with these two players. Plays out from behind the net. Ceci allows the pass out, Nurse allows the shot, and there's 2 quick shots right in close on the goalie. With 8 seconds left in the first, a play that I really didn't like, because we've seen this a few times from Nurse, where he's kind of slow and lazy into the corner, and he gets beat. And again, he just got beat to the puck. The guy went around the net and passed it out front in the slot for a wicked shot with 8 seconds left by Pasternak. It just seemed like a lapse of concentration and effort on the part of Nurse on that one. 25 seconds into the second period, Cody Ceci loses a race down the boards. Brad Marchand gets a shot from outside. Stuart Skinner's got to have that shot, but Cody Ceci might have also had that shot if he'd just been a little quicker, getting a stick on puck.
I almost don't want my defenseman tipping a shot from there. That's usually the only thing that can go wrong. Skinner's got to have that, like that.
He does.
Ceci let in an undangerous shot there, and unfortunately, Skinner also let it in.
7 minutes later, Ceci on the PK allows a slot pass and a dangerous shot. 6 minutes left in the second period. Ceci wanders out and allows a pass into the slot for DeBrusk. So this is one of those plays we haven't seen a lot this year because the Oilers no longer play this man-to-man. CC seemed to forget this, and he's way out at the blue line covering his guy, and there's a shot pass kind of into the slot. No defenseman there to be seen, and the forwards, of course, don't cover as they should. I think it was Holloway and Janmark, if my memory serves. Anyway, DeBrusk gets the tip shot as Nurse is screening the goalie again. And then DeBrusk gets the rebound and puts it in the net. So again, they're both culpable on that goal. And I don't like. I know it seemed reasonable for CC to wander out, but I don't actually think it is their strategy anymore. Like they weren't playing structured defense at that point. It was breaking down, and as we happened a lot in that game. The third period they did better. I mean, both put shots on net that ended up as goals. So I give them credit for that. And those are good plays. But CC was one of the culprits on Pasternak's the fifth goal for Boston. He was on the Kane turnover. There was too much gap from CC on Pasternak, and Pasternak got the shot through him, and it beat Skinner. And you already detailed Nurse. First, Nurse deflected a Pasternak shot on net that Skinner had to save. It was a very difficult save, and then he, as you say, he was slow getting off the ice. So Bruce, this is Nurse has been in a real big defensive slump actually the last month, and our numbers show that he's leaking grade A shots against, and it just could be a phase. It just could be all players go through slumps, all players get hot, but Darnell Nurse especially is really struggling right now on defense, and CC is in the same boat. They're both not getting it done, and I think they are at even strength right now. A major reason why the Oilers are not getting it done in that game situation as they had been previously. They had been playing pretty well for a long stretch of time, but their game has come apart. So
they were both on the ice for 2, 4, and 3 against at 5-on-5. But as you say, they got beaten on the power play goal by Boston, and Nurse got beat on the overtime goal. So he was on the ice for 5 of the 6. And he was a way better door than window on 2 of those goals. So
yeah,
I thought Skinner maybe gave Nurse a bit of a stare down after the first goal went in.
Is that right?
So,
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, well, he never saw the puck, I don't think. That was the one from the point that went right into the top corner of the net, the floater.
Yeah.
And all he saw, I think, was back of his own player, and he turned his head and sort of stared off into the corner as Nurse was skating there. And maybe I imagined it. Watch the replay if you got it.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think. But anyway, if Mike Smith had done that, there would have been a national inquiry. Let's put it that way. But Skinner's at least a little bit subtle about it. But that's what it looked like to me. Was here sort of, what are you doing?
Well, it's interesting. The coach did break up CC and Nurse recently, right? He tried to Harney in that same role because, but it just. Anyway, we'll get into this in our conundrum. We'll touch on this a little bit more at that point.
Yeah,
what's your number?
I wonder if maybe Nurse is carrying an injury or something, because he doesn't have a whole lot of jump in his step. And, sometimes you got these stretches of play where a guy doesn't look very good, and you find out later he was banged up or whatever. And anyway, that's
fair comment.
Speculation, but
it could well be the case, and that's often the case. So that's something.
It is often the case. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not like he doesn't handle a big workload. So.
What's your number?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the number 23. This was the number of consecutive games that Matthias Janmark played without being on the ice for a single 5-on-5 goal against. And that long string, which dated back to the Florida game on December 16th, like well over 2 months ago. It came crashing to a halt in the second period tonight when he was on the ice for the second third
Yeah,
and fourth
third
Boston
and fourth.
goals in
Yeah,
succession. And we had him as defensively responsible on at least one of them. I haven't got the
on
sheet
both of them
on both
actually.
of them.
He
Yeah,
allowed a
okay.
pass on the first one, and
Hmm.
um, he allowed a pass. We have it as a shot, but he allowed that pass through to DeBrusque from the point on the fourth one.
Right. Okay.
So
Anyway, he was uh, um, uh, he was beaten. Right. It wasn't like he was out of position or did stuff wrong, but he'd let the pucks get through. And I'm just pointing out because it's the first time in a very, very long time this guy's even been on the ice for a goal against. But it happened, and then it happened again about 10 minutes later. At that point, it seemed like the game went. Then Janmark himself scored the goal early in the third that brought Oilers back within one. So at
yeah,
least he made up for some of it. But
he's by far their best defensive winger, and it's not surprising to me to hear that he hadn't been scored on in that long. He hardly makes a mistake on grade A shots. Like his
Mhm.
rate is about half of the
Mhm.
next best player in terms of making
Yeah,
mistakes on grade A shots. He's really smart, but yeah, he did have a few stumbles in this game. I mean, the Oilers were disorganized on defense,
very much
and
so.
it was a bit of a mess. Honestly,
Very
it was
much
it
so.
was not a bit of a mess. It was a freaking mess
Hmm.
out there on too many plays. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was not a tidy game by any description. I'm sure Boston would say the same thing. But you take the point, David, and you move on. My secret
yeah,
good thing is that I don't live in the universe where Brad Marchand gets a breakaway, shorthanded breakaway goal with 2 seconds left in regulation, as easily could have happened if Evan Bouchard hadn't come back and made a big, big defensive play on the power play when all of a sudden the puck comes flying out of the zone. There's two Bruins, including Marchand, steaming up the middle of the ice. And the guy, all he had to do was chip it through, and Marchand was in, and there was like 4 seconds on the clock, just long enough to. And can you imagine like a shorthanded goal in the dying
that would have
seconds of
hurt.
regulation? So this one hurts the way it is, but it hurts a whole lot less with 1 point than none. Right? You take your point and you move on. Hopefully, you learn a thing or two or 20 from this game. Our coach has got a ton of film to go over between now and Friday.
It was so loosey goosey that I really was worried they were going to lose it in the
Oh,
third period. And,
sure.
and then right at the end again, I was pointing out Kane was on the ice with Draisaitl and I think Perry, and it was a terrible shift, and it looked like they were going to get scored on. So okay, Bruce, my number is 31. Connor Brown now has 31 grade A shots. He had one grade A shot in this game. It was at the end of that unbelievable shift the Oilers had near the end of the second period. I don't know how long they had it in the Bruins' end
Mm-hmm.
um, contiguously, but it was more than 2 minutes. They didn't
Oh,
get a
yeah.
lot of they didn't get a lot of grade A shots in that
That was the
entire
only one,
time.
wasn't
It
it?
was the it was let me just see here. Yeah, I think it was the only one. And Evan Bouchard made a really nice move and then passed it to Brown, who got off a really good shot quickly from the slot. Couldn't score. 31 grade A shots, Bruce. You'd figure he'd have 6 goals,
Yeah.
but he's got none. He's got none. Poor
Then he
old
had a 2-on-1, and the
McLeod.
pass just was a little hot, and he couldn't handle it.
I thought McLeod Brown actually he went hard to the net on that
Hmm.
one, and I wonder if he should have instead of hung back for the shot, but he probably doesn't have a lot of confidence in his shot. Like he had to do one or the other. He was even with McLeod, so he either had to kind of pull back a bit and go for the shot, or he had to go to the net. And he went to the net, and the passing lane was difficult for McLeod to make, and he was unable to make that pass. I think it went off the Bruin player actually.
Yeah.
It was deflected. But Connor Brown, man, I'm just I want him to score. I want that
You
guy
and
to score.
everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, me and everybody else. Bruce, tonight's conundrum is this. Do the Oilers look like a Stanley Cup team to you? And if not, what do they got to do here?
Well, they got to clean up their act, David. They do not look. This did not look anything like a Stanley Cup contender tonight. I mean, it was, I guess, exciting. Although there wasn't many like great goals scored in this game. There was a lot of, they were lucky that, uh, sometimes you see these games where you say the goalie's matching the other goalie save for save. It was more like Swayman was matching Skinner sieve for sieve.
Uh-huh.
There'd be one bad one at one end, and then there'd be a bad one at the other end to tie it up, like Hyman's tying goal right after. There was
And
a few that,
Janmark's goal.
that filtered through somehow, and I didn't think Skinner made some really good saves. Don't get me wrong, but I thought two or three of the goals on him were, not great, and he's clearly. Um, he's lost that sort of edge, like that calmness
He's fighting it.
and confidence that he had throughout December and January. It's kind of disappeared, and with each passing game, when it doesn't come back, I'm becoming a little bit more worried. And
Yeah.
last game, he let in 3 to Arizona, and in the back half of the game, he was pretty good. And I thought, okay, he'll be fine for against Boston, but I don't know. Anyway, so
Suddenly,
there's that.
yeah.
But it's not just the goaltending; it's the defensive play, and it's the forward defensive play from the forwards and the loosey goosiness. Like Boston had way too much fun in Edmonton zone tonight with clean looks from the slot.
Yeah. Yeah, fortunately, Swayman started to do the chokey pokey, and that almost allowed the Oilers to win this game, but not to be. Bruce, yeah, they don't look right now like a Stanley Cup team. And it's funny with the goaltenders how Stuart Skinner looks like an all-world goalie when the Oilers are giving up 11 grade A shots a game, but when they're giving up 17 to 20 grade A shots a game, no, he doesn't look at all like a strong goalie. And I think a lot of his strong play was based on some extremely disciplined defensive play that the
Yeah.
Oilers managed to maintain for about 6 weeks to 2 months. Really impressive. And so I've said in the past, I think they can. I thought those habits look pretty deeply ingrained, and I think that they can come back. And I do think that. But I'm starting to. There are some deficiencies in the team. Um, they can look if they get the wrong combination of players on the ice, they can look slow and start getting run around their own zone. So I don't know what the answer is, Bruce. There's a lot of people who think that Cody Ceci has to get moved out and Darnell Nurse needs a new defensive partner. It's a
Mm-hmm.
possibility. I mean, maybe someone, a speedier player, better puck mover, teamed up with Darnell Nurse. I mean, the player that everyone's mentioning is Chris Tanev, who I'm not sure at this point in his career is a very fast
Mm-hmm.
hockey player. I mean, he's been an excellent hockey player, Chris Tanev.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him enough lately to get a grip on whether he can still bring his A game or not. But he he strikes me as a similar player to Cody Ceci, and I don't know how much better than Cody Ceci is. He's stylistically the same. So I don't know if Tanev would be the answer. Maybe it's some other player, some other defender who could do a better job in that role than Cody Ceci. That pairing though is really struggling. I've said for a long time that I think that there's a hole at third line center. They just need a really strong two-way, tough defensive center. Um, I still think that's the case. I'm not so convinced that they need to, like, if they can't, obviously if they can get Jake Gensel for the right price, that's a fantastic pickup. He's an all-star winger. He's fantastic. But if they could get maybe a right shot puck moving defenseman and a really strong defensive center. Who are the names that keep coming up? Sam Carrick of Anaheim and the guy from Nick Dowd from Washington. And they
Yeah.
can pick up a defenseman who, they're not going to get someone as good as Reijo Ruotsalainen, that kind of super calm puck moving defenseman. super agile, super mobile to combine with Nurse, but maybe someone who has some of those attributes, who can really move the puck, really has a calm head, and can defend. That kind of player.
Spacek. I'd settle for Spacek.
Yeah, yeah.
or Salainen. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
don't know what they're looking for, Bruce, but it's maybe they're going to have to make a move there. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think they're going to make a move. I don't know how many moves they can make, so they're going to have to prioritize. And this sort of second edition of Ryan McLeod playing in the top six on the wing is really important, in the sense that if he continues to succeed in the top six, maybe that tells them they are looking for a bottom six center, and otherwise McLeod is their 3C, and they're looking for a top six winger maybe, and so it's because he could do either. McLeod's his versatility is a real boon. Like, this is a player that has a lot of value because he can do a lot of things, and except win faceoffs in overtime. But he's got a lot of game, and so that I think they're kind of doing due diligence. Say, what is it that we want him doing best, so we can fill the other hole. And again, as I've mentioned before, I think more than once, the longer the wait, the more cap space they accrue, and the less time they have to pay any incoming players increased salary. So it's still no rush until
there's no rush
till the deadline, or the week of the deadline.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a player. I had someone in mind, and I just the name popped in my head that stylistically that I'd like to see. It's kind of you probably remember Anton Strawman, who was 5'11", 193 pounds, right
Victor
shot
Hedman's
D-man
partner for a long time. Yeah,
and I just think that's the kind of player. Very mobile, very good with the puck, very savvy on defense. Just a smart hockey player. In some ways, like Brett Kulak on the right side, if Kulak could play on the right side. But, it doesn't seem to work with Nurse and Kulak together too well, from what I've seen so far. But that's the kind of player, if they could get, there sometimes players like that are available, and you gotta be smart about it. But maybe they can pounce on someone like that, as opposed to Tanev. Again, I'm not convinced Tanev is the answer, because he just strikes me as long in the tooth, easily injured, and somewhat similar to Cody Ceci. Maybe he's a lot better. I can't, I haven't watched him play in the last 20 games very much. Like, I haven't seen him play, so I can't say.
On Saturday. Watch him on Saturday
let's watch him.
When he's played Calgary. He's big. He's strong defensively. There are some people that say, he's best player available. On the other hand, I heard Rachel Dory interviewed on Low Tide Show the other day.
Yeah.
And he was talking about whether Tanev would be worth a first round draft choice. And she just sort of said, they wish, meaning Calgary, that she didn't think that for what was left of, this contract that's expiring, that, he was that much of a cut above a lot of players in the, lower pay bracket. Like, he's $4.5 million. And
I can't say. My fear and suspicion is she's correct. She's a sharp hockey observer.
She is.
So I'm just a little worried about all that Tanev talk. And again, I just don't think that's the answer. I think they do actually need someone in the Strawman mold. Doesn't have to be a big point getter. Just someone who's really calm and can handle the puck, move the puck. Boston seems to have a lot of those kinds of defensemen. So, and I was really impressed with Boston, although they gave up the 3 Californians in the third period, Bruce. Their intensity, the way they go about playing the game, they play fast and hard, and they looked like a really, really good team. I can see why they're winning so much, even though they've lost so many players. It's amazing how many players they've lost, outstanding players, and they just keep cranking out the wins. It's because they play as a team and they play hard, fast, disciplined hockey. And they usually get some goaltending. They didn't get it tonight necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. Boston is used to a way better game from their goalie. He got rattled
Yeah.
tonight. Swayman got rattled. You could see it. And I think Skinner did too, to a certain extent. And Swayman a little later in the game. But in the third period, when he was making a save and didn't give up a rebound, he would freeze it because he was just so happy that he actually had the puck that he wouldn't try and play it or anything. He just sort of tuck it in.
Well, the Oilers sure poured on the pressure in the third period.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great third period. That was it. And you know what? I'm a little bitter with the way it ended, but that was a very exciting hockey game. It was a thrilling game in a lot of ways. It was a lot of fun. It's a great comeback, and they got the 1 point. So
got the 1 point. We don't
shouldn't-
live in that universe. Thanks.
shouldn't be too doom and gloom, I guess. But we're starting to there is. Listen, they haven't played well on defense in a long time. They had a good game against Dallas, I guess, except for the second period. They look like they might be getting it together, but against Arizona, no, they were a mess for 2 periods, and tonight they were a mess throughout the game. So,
yeah. Yeah. Well, we're now up to 8 games since the break.
yeah,
And they've given up 3+ goals in 8 out of 8 games after having a 14-game streak of never giving up 3 goals even once. Like the turnaround is just complete. And they're giving up basically 4 goals a game, and they were 150 during the winning streak. So it's a change of character, and they're scoring way more. It's like the games are more wide open. I wouldn't have guessed this, but it doesn't seem to be to their advantage. They seem to do better in the button-down games. And
this is the Oilers we've seen too much in the McDavid era. Loosey-goosey, not fundamentally sound on defense, bad defensive habits, bad decisions, some lazy plays here and there that cost them. And they're just not going to win in the playoffs this way. And
like
we've all seen this too much. We've seen it too much I'm not optimistic about this brand of hockey for the Oilers anymore. And it's not going to work. There's no way it's going to work. There's too many good teams they got to beat for it to work. So they got to figure it. And it seemed like they had figured out something else. And I think they actually have. And it's kind of in their back pocket, but maybe it's time to pull it out. And
yes. Yeah, my takes, they just hit a flat stretch, and they just they're just not focused on a game plan particularly. They're just going out there and playing shinny.
All right, I'll buy that. I'll take that narrative, Bruce. I like that. Works for me. All right, Friday night against.
Yeah, I got one more small set of numbers for you, David.
All right.
This is since 2005-06, since in the Bettman Point salary cap era, most shots by a NHL forward with 0 goals. And here's the top 5. Tobias Reeder, Edmonton, 2018-19, 92 shots. Craig Adams, Pittsburgh, 09-10, 84 shots, no goals. Number 3, and of course he could take himself off this list, Connor Brown, Edmonton this year, 72 shots. Number 4, Valery Nichushkin somehow went an entire season with 65 shots and no goals with Dallas before he went to Colorado and became a star. Number 5, Patrick Russell, Edmonton, 58 shots, no goals. So 3 of the top 5 in a 30-plus team league have had the entire season of snakebite that played for the Oilers. So it seems familiar, and there's a reason why it seems familiar, because Toby Reeder and Patrick Russell both happened in the last half dozen years, and here we are again. You just keep hope never dies, but it's on life support.
I had no idea, Bruce. I had no idea it was such a proud tradition in Edmonton. Thanks for reminding me. All right.
Yeah.
Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.